Hello, hello. My name is Barbara Zeig, and this is EBstars Podcast. We have a special guest today, Liz Dreyer from Qualtrics, and she's coming from Utah States. And I'm really glad to have you, Liz, with a very special topic. I think it's very I wouldn't say forgotten, but it's sometimes we just that's my belief. What I'm finding is just I don't know why, but we tend to forget how powerful email marketing can be in talent recruitment and employer branding. So I'm really happy to have you with this topic, and I can't wait to see the 5 tips you're going to bring to us. Very, very, very happy to have you, Liz, and thank you very much in advance for the stuff you're bringing. So please tell us, Liz, if you could just introduce yourself. I'm always curious about how people turn into employer branding area, your employer branding strategies. So there's even more fascinating how you end up or you started with employer branding, what's fascinating in that and why you're here. And then if you could just tell us where you're coming from, like where you're now working on what kind of projects, what are you doing in your work. It's always good to know what our community is thinking about and working on, because this is a area where I believe it's nice to know what other career paths within employer branding you can get. And also it's like we've got a community from all over the places in the world. So we know that States, Europe is on different we've got different development stages, and there are countries and people from countries where employer branding is just starting. So it's nice to know where we can go with our career too. So that's a great opportunity to ask that questions. Welcoming you and hello. If you could just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. So I work at Qualtrics currently. I've been there for about 7 years. I started my career and I came up on the recruiting side of the house, as so many of us do. And I was in a position where we were doing a lot of really massive growth in the tech space. And so we were growing our departments by 90% plus on an annual basis. And at the time, that required so much work, so much sourcing, so much so much hand holding throughout the process. And what we discovered on the recruiting side of the house was if we help people through that and caretake them and design a journey for that candidate through the process, it's a lot stickier, it's a lot easier. And at the same time, we were starting to hire our first employment brand manager at Qualtrics, and it was kind of a really beautiful match made in heaven, because I was sitting down and talking to one of her first teammates, and we were doing my why Qualtrics story for the blog, and I was like, man, I'm really loving this candidate experience stuff. And she's like, I think we're going to hire for that. And so I started out on the brand side of things, really designing and measuring our candidate experience. And like anything in the world that we're in, things change. COVID hit, things shift. And so now I'm in a position where I'm caretaking our brand. I was instrumental in standing up our employment brand proposition. We are standing up all of these different programs, and I get to be one of the minds and strategists behind where we're going to focus and how we're going to stand up some of these big programs. So I get to do a little bit of creative. I get to do a little bit of tactical, and it's really fun. So I've learned on my side of things what I'm really passionate about, because I've been in a situation where we've been really resource constrained, is just getting the most out of every single thing that you're doing, because the resources are so tight. And so I think that there's just ways to maximize. I'm a maximizer in life. And so I'm so passionate on the brand side of things where it's like, if we do something, we're going to squeeze every bit of ROI out of that. And it's something that I really love and I pay close attention to.
That's a great story. And, congratulations on your journey. It's like 7 years. And okay, I'm not going to, ask you about your plans, like goals, because that's that's a tricky question. But anyway, thank you for sharing that. And so let's focus on the things and a real topic you bringing. And first question, like, why did you choose this? Particular question, particular topic, this particular tool is a very specific, unique tool. Where is the choice coming from?
Yeah, so we're going to talk about talent community nurturing today. And I am really excited about it because I think that it's really underrated. I think that it's not the sexiest thing. It's super utilitarian, but it's really effective if you do it the right way. And it's something that, like, really admittedly, we had kind of backburnered for a while as we stood up some of the more impactful on the brand side of things in terms of like, impactful is probably not the right word, but really the face of the brand and the messaging and the look and feel. The talent community had to take a little bit of a back seat. And once we were able to stand up all of our frameworks and pillars and look and feel, then talent community was one of the first things that we tackled. And it's been such a cool journey. And like I said, it's underrated and it's not as sexy, admittedly, as the careers pages, but they're really fun. And so I think that it's also something, like you said, people are in different parts of their journeys in talent brand. And I think that it's something that can be really easy to tackle and a low hanging fruit item that you can get a lot of value out of.
Okay, so let's start with the topic. let's dig deeper. So guys, if you want to understand how to nurture, convert also the talent community, that's the episode you should watch. So let's start. Just to remind you, our framework is 5 stars, like five tips or 5 examples you can share, the most important stuff you learn or you want to share. So can we start?
All right, do you want me to just kick off?
Mm-hmm.
Or do you? Okay, perfect. Let's go. So we've got, when we started this journey, we had a really underperforming talent community that was really just not consistently managed, and it really just wasn't contributing to pipeline. So we were in a position where it was, we either need to turn this around and make it into something, or we need to figure out something else to do. And so what we started with is just getting really clear on our goals. And so that's my first tip, is to just get really clear on what it is that you want to achieve with your talent community. I think that there's a bunch of schools of thought with it. We toyed around with, is it just going to be nurturing and we're not going to worry about jobs? Is it going to be something that is a really big tool for legitimate conversion? Are we trying to deepen relationships? Are we building awareness? Where are we hitting in the funnel? And so you have to get really clear on what you're trying to do with your talent community, because the rest of everything else will follow. And so for us, we wanted to say, okay, data wise, we're not just looking at reach, but we also want to engage and convert that talent as well. And so we really wanted to use it as something a little bit deeper than just getting our name out in front of folks. And so we're really intentional about working with the business to use it as a tool to say, okay, our goal is to convert this talent. How can we get them in a better spot when they hit your pipelines? And so understanding the problems that we're really facing out there in the field for the recruiters, and being able to tee up some content in that space to really help them to be more prepared when they get there, because our goal was to truly convert them.
Right. So first question is, like, how did you came to the statement, like, oh, we are underperforming? Like, what do you mean? Like, how did you even assess that you're this is, not the goals you want you want to achieve, right?
I mean, we weren't really doing it
Right,
consistently. And so I think that that's big sign number one was, we didn't have a consistent
right.
cadence that we were nurturing talent with. It was very ad hoc. It was very when we had time. There wasn't a lot of thought put behind it. We were using the out of the box talent community feature with our CRM. And so we only had about 2,000 candidates there. We're doing way more recruiting than that. 2,000 candidates is a drop in the bucket for the amount of hires that we need to be able to make. And so just with those two things alone, we're like, this is not where we need it to be.
Right.
And so it really needed to be stood up soup to nuts to be able to say, how do we give it our all and really empty out the tanks on this to make sure that we can say, like, we really tried our
Okay.
hardest to make this
All right.
a successful tool for us.
And then what? Right. So goals.
So then we were also looking at our candidate experience surveys to really understand where there might be experience gaps. So where are we losing candidates? Where are offers getting declined or interviews not matching up with expectations? Because that's also another place that we were able to say, okay, we're going to do a better job at this talent that is arguably the most convertible across all of our different channels. They're in a CRM. They've applied with us. They're super warm. How can we kind of deepen that for them? And so we were including that in our goal setting. And so what we started to do was, once we were able to say, okay, we want to grow the talent community in numbers. We want to make sure that we're driving open rates. We want to look at click-through rates, and we want to look at applies. We were able to say, what levers can we pull then to drive those key metrics? And so we did things, we experimented, like A/B testing subject lines. We learned that emojis, ironically enough, do not perform well enough for us with open rates. Like, if people are turned off by them. Time of day to send. We've got a truly global talent community. And so it works best for us. We learned after a lot of experimentation to send really early in the morning US time to try to get as many people as they're coming on to be able to hit that first spurt of opens. And then also being able to, like, switch up the order of our segments. If we really want to drive applies, how can we do that? And we learned that, as much as brand folks, we want to be able to take people through the journey and to be like, okay, you've read all this amazing content. Now it's time to apply. We get way more applies, upwards of 3 times, when we add the jobs to the top of the newsletter. And so if that's truly one of the things that we wanted to drive with the newsletter, then just give the people what they want, put it up top. So once we were able to say, okay, these are the metrics that we're doing, we were able to make choices like that and to experiment and to really drive some good results.
Right. One question, or second question, is like, have you used any specific tool for that, or it was your tool, or you experiment with that? It's like,
yeah, we use Phenom People for our CRM, and so we use them for their email tools. I will say that, like, we do not use their out of the box talent community product as a whole, because we found it to be a little bit limiting based off of the goals that we wanted to set for ourselves. And so we have things built up a more personalized for our needs, which has been working really well. So I think that that's actually a really great segue into my next point, if you don't mind, which is the best solution is often the simplest. We needed to really increase the number of people that we had in that talent community. I mentioned earlier that we had like only 2,000 people, and for it to be a really viable channel for us, we needed to grow those numbers quickly. And I think on the employment brand side of things, we're heavily reliant on folks in the field on the recruiting side of things to help us to convert, to get those numbers in the CRM. And we had, although only 2,000 people in that out of the box like product that they had, we had over 400,000 people that had opted into email marketing in our CRM. That's your talent community. Those are the people that are like, yeah, we would like to hear from you. So we're like, why are we focusing on these 2,000 people? A large percentage of which were our employees, because they were interested in hearing from us, and say, okay, we've got this group of people that we've put through the paces when it comes to GDPR and all of our legal stuff. Why don't we just tap into that? And so that was like kind of the big, like, flashing moment where it was like, just do the really simple solution and just adopt all those folks into the talent community. And so as people are just starting to think about this, like, and it's like, man, it's really daunting to build it. Think about who's opted in for your emails already, or think about how you can make that really easy.
Yeah.
Because if you've got an ATS, arguably, I'd say that you have a talent community that you can tap into. And so it's a simple transition around making sure that you're able to communicate to them and market to them. But most tools allow you to be able to work that into your already existing processes for applies. And so we're able to say, if you're interested enough to be here on our site, let's give you multiple like places for you to convert it to a talent community member, so that we can make it super easy to join. And so thinking about the lowest barrier of entry possible. I was out there prepping for this the other day, and I went to go join a talent community, and it was asking for my resume. And I was like, man, I'm not looking to necessarily apply right now. I'm just here for the content. So I'm not gonna join this talent community. And so that's potentially one less person that they have in their talent community because they made the barrier of entry too high. So think about the type of people that you want there. You want folks that you're that maybe aren't ready to apply, that your recruiters are trying to get into there so that they can nurture potential high potential talent in the future. And so not everybody's going to have a resume. So keep it really short, keep it really simple. What's a bare minimum amount of information that you need, and set it up really simple, because that'll also help with segmentation and stuff down the line too. The simpler, the better. Just keep it really, really easy.
Great.
And visible, embedded into as many places as possible. Social, the website, in your apply process, like just drip that link wherever you can, wherever you think that you'd have an opportunity to get high quality members to your talent community.
Right, great. I just got a question about, you said just thanks to A/B testing, for example, you just decided no emojis are needed to convert people, or just needed means like people just... Have you ever been checking is like the quality of and that's a question of what, like like people applying or people interacting. What was the final checkpoint? Like, I don't know if you understand what I mean, but it's like, let's say you're checking if emojis are converting or not, and here's the word converting to, let's say, applications, right? And then we've got quality of the applications. Have you been nurturing that that deep, the question of A/B and using A/B testing? Because people can open the email because they like or not the emojis, but what next? Like, have you been checking like the next stage?
Totally. We view it as a funnel. And so we really say, okay, from open to click to apply, what does that look like? And how are those people moving through the funnel? I think that because this is a brand campaign, right? Like we are definitely using some marketing techniques here, but it is a brand campaign. The metric of truth for us here is what we call brand influence, which is we're able to, through our CRM, look at all of our, what we would say brand owned sources are. So whether that's content on social, this newsletter, etc., we're able to say, how are we influencing people through the funnel? And so we say both, what does quality look like in terms of the applications that we're driving? The volume is a little bit lower. And then you also are able to open up that aperture and say, okay, but how are we influencing that funnel? And what we're seeing is that we have really great, strong pass-through rates as we look at just people that are clicking on the newsletter that might already even be in the funnel too. And so we're getting double the quality there, where it's like both the applies that we're driving as well as really sticky for people actively in the funnel that are interacting with that. They're staying throughout the funnel and converting as well. So we're actually able to look at it from two different spaces around the direct people that we're driving in the funnel for applies, and also just the people that are out there looking at the content and getting more excited as they move throughout their interview process, which is really cool. And so we've been able to say, okay, let's add all of those different like source tracking metrics into the CRM to be able to pull. And then we've got this like beautiful, my teammate put this beautifully constructed report together that says, okay, this is brand influence across all of our different channels, and talent community has been able to show up as one of the higher performing options that we have, which is really cool.
Perfect. Congrats on that, because that's not easy, just to look at the both sides, I would say, because we usually have like one of these goals, like branding, engaging, or converting, right? And great.
I think that's when we're saying like squeeze everything that you can out of it. Where it's like, what? We have to be able to show value. Like, we're just in an environment right now where like you have to be able to show value across your programs, or else you're at risk of not being able to continue those, because we're strapped on resources, we're strapped on dollars. And so when you think about like outside of the CRM that you're already paying for, like free solution, like milk that for all it's worth and get as much out of it as you can, and look at it from all those different angles.
Perfect. Right. And
number 3 is, I think, another great example of that, which is content. Don't overthink it. Like, I think that one of our biggest fears was, as we moved into this segmented approach, was, man, how are we going to get content for 4 newsletters a month? Like, that's huge. And the answer was right there in front of us, which was, we're going to pull it from all of our other channels, and we're going to be able to look at it from a different angle, really understand our audiences, and be able to just reuse content, and just be able to really squeeze every bit of value out from that. And so we are able to look at it from, when it comes to content, that those problems that we're trying to solve with the business, which then drives the content we're creating on a whole team level. And it falls into the buckets of employer brand created, like the blog or the social, that's like really high quality content that a lot of times, if you look at it across your audiences, you can get a piece for all of your segments really easily, or reuse it across all of those segments. If it's done in a really great way. Then you've got the corporate brand created. They've got a blog, they've got social, they've got case studies. People want to understand what we're doing with our product. They get really excited about that. So don't underestimate the corporate brand content. There's really good stuff out there. And then employee created, which is, I think, that the part that I think that we really underestimate, where if I'm looking across my newsletters, I'm like, okay, employee advocacy programs. We've got what we call Content Collective, which is our employee sharing program. And so I can pull their content in, and I'm like, hey, I love your LinkedIn post. Can I put it on our newsletter? Because they have a really amazing things to share. Or it's all hands meetings, Slack channels, ERG sessions. Like, there's so much stuff going on that you can grab a quick snippet from any of those places and just drop it in. So you have to be super present, like any of us do in the business, to really understand what's happening and keep an ear to the ground. But there's really great stuff out there without you having to stand up this whole content engine, right? And so as you're just starting out, think about what you have access to, and just start like grabbing snippets, because I think that they're really undervalued. So we were able to really quickly turn out those 4 newsletters a month. And it's something that we can easily manage across other programs and projects. It's like, it's not a huge lift. I don't have a lot of specific data, but being the person that's doing it, I can say that it's easily manageable. I can do that across all the other stuff that I'm doing, and I'm not struggling to get content all the time because we just opened it up a bit.
Yeah, but you have to, in the same time, you have to have a kind of like listening system. Like, you have to read all this, Slack, LinkedIn, or do you use any hashtag system, or how how you able to listen carefully and be everywhere, you just or just other people just passing you the content, or saying, oh, hello, this is a great post to be utilized, or how you do that? Like,
it's a little bit of both. And so I think that from a tool side of things, we do have a tool called Everyone Social that we use for our employee sharing platform. And so we're able to track through that, what's performing well, what people have posted. And so that's a really great place that we can go and say, okay, we've got that. We do encourage people to use hashtag #QualtricsLife. And so we're able to pull things in through that as well. But everybody on our team is a content creator. And so we're all out there looking for stuff like this. We've got somebody that's writing blogs. We've got somebody that's doing social. And so we're all taking this approach around casting a wide net across the business to identify great content. And so we're always kind of on the lookout, in addition to like, we're employees here. And so we're interacting with the content because, we're going to the all hands meetings. We're participating in our Slack channels. Like, you have to be the engaged employee, and you have to be the ones that are doing what we're asking employees to do when we send content out. And so I think that you have to like live out what you like, be your best student type of person, where it's like, if you're going to ask employees to do that so that they can see all the content that you're pushing out, you should be there too. And so I think that once you understand where the good stuff is coming from, you start to spend more time there. Like, we stood up a gratitude channel in Slack. And so there's really great shout outs that happen there. And so as we think about impact, which is one of our key pillars in our EVP, as we look at impact, there's a lot of people out there that are saying, thank you so much for helping me. This is what we achieved. And like, that's gold for content.
Yeah.
Cause then it's like, okay, tell me more about that. Right? Like, help me do that. Let's use that. And people are excited to do it because they want to amplify their impact, and they want to be able to build
that's
their
living the brand, actually. Right. So any legal issues with that, like resharing, people sharing internally their stuff to the external audience?
We've learned, I mean, you have to be really careful. Like, we're not sharing numbers, we're not sharing revenue. We need to be really careful about what we do talk about. But I think that there's a lot of, once you kind of learn what your legal team is good with and is not good with, then you just follow their frameworks and you don't overstep. And so an example of this was somebody was talking about a digital marketing program that they stood up, and they thought about data in a different way. Like, that's safe. But like, they didn't have dollars, they didn't have anything else. It was just like, hey, this is what we're doing. It happens to be a high growth area that we're hiring for in our scale customer success department. And so we're like, that's a really cool story that we can pull in, and you just have to do it the right way and just kind of use your business common sense to be like, we're obviously not going to talk about how much money we're putting into how much money we're getting out of deals. We're not going to call out customers that don't want to be mentioned. Like, we're going to do it in a right way that highlights our employees as opposed to other things, because at the end of the day, that's why we're here, is to showcase our employees and what they're doing. And so when you think about it in that lens, it becomes a little bit easier to navigate.
Yeah, perfect. And another question about EVP is like, you mentioned that a little, but it's like, do you plan your content around the EVP, or it's reverse? It's like, or it just happen, this is suitable to sell our EVP, or you think about it or not? It's like, can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, totally. If we're creating content on our team, it's totally EVP aligned. And I think that as I'm looking at planning, what I found really easy for our newsletter is to say, okay, 3-segment newsletter, 3 pillars of the EVP. Do we hit each pillar of the EVP in that newsletter? And if not, that's a really great place to go search. And so if we're really heavy on team and impact, then career growth is the other piece of our EVP. And so I can go find a career growth story to be able to add in there in that segment. And then it becomes just like a little puzzle, and it's a repeatable, scalable process and format that people can come to expect, whether they know it or not. They're going to see the same things in our newsletters in different ways every single time.
Perfect.
So yes, EVP is super prevalent.
That's important. And the last question about the content is, do you schedule your content like for a weeks or months, or it's just like ad hoc? Because, when you're resharing or utilizing the, let's say, Slack channels content, it's like, it's happening right now, and you have your newsletter going to be published in, in 4 weeks, for example. So how do you manage to do that?
I mean, I think that the nice thing about it is that people outside your company don't know what's happening right then and there. And so if you're in a position where, like, we have our big sales event, like our big company conference, like that's highly marketed. Other people are going to see that. It's going to be super, super noticeable. And so we want to be able to time that with all of the other company comms that are going out. That's a little bit more time sensitive, but somebody shouting out Barbara because she did an amazing job doing something, they don't know when that happened. And so you can use that months in advance. And be able to plan that out. And that works really well. And so it's a bit of both. We have a recently organized content engine across the entire company where we're all talking about like key messages across all of our different channels and programs. And so we're able to say, okay, really, what do we all need to be beating the drum with across all channels, across all of Qualtrics, and then what matters to us on the brand side of things.
Right. Perfect. Just give me a second. I'll just let my dog out. Yeah.
Go.
Sure. We're going to post-product that, so don't worry. This is not working for the listeners, but it's don't worry. We just play with that. Right. So let's come back to the points. The fourth, I think. Number 4.
The fourth thing is going to be we need to mitigate unsubscribes. Mm-hmm. Like I think that's the one of the bigger risks when you think about email marketing is, and as a consumer, it's fantastic. It's so easy to unsubscribe now. But we want to keep people there. We want to keep them engaged. And so when we look at unsubscribes, our solution to that was really understanding our audience. So segmentation for us was key. Pick the ones that you care about. Don't overcomplicate it. Keep it really localized and personalized as much as you can. But we were able to look at the ones that we think are important are regionally. So we're hiring globally. And so we identified EMEA, APJ, and Latin America as our key regions to be able to nurture, mm-hmm. where we're seeing a lot of growth. The US gets a lot, right? Like they get enough, but we didn't think that we needed to like have a specific US driven newsletter because everything is US centric. And so that was really easy. I live here. I can say that. We get it.
It's you who
and
says
then
that,
we also wanted And then we also want to make sure that we give the people what they want. So as we think about persona development, really understanding what resonates with them, what's important to them, being able to deliver content that they want. We're not going to send engineers content about sales folks. And so we want to make sure that we drive that. And so as we think about those key personas, we said for our business, engineering, sales, and kind of like the other bucket, which is our services organization, operations, and G&A. And so we're able to have those 3 key segments there, and then early and senior talent, because they want vastly different things in their career journeys. And so we're able to kind of break that up. And so we've got a global newsletter that goes out, and then one segment that goes out every month. And so this month it was departments and a global newsletter. Next month, it's going to be early and senior talent and a global newsletter. And so we're able to kind of schedule that out, to your question about scheduling earlier. And we can keep it really personalized. And then we also we're an experience management company. That's what Qualtrics does. So we send out a survey and we said, what do you want to hear? And so we are able to look at that all the time. And it became really clear that they want job content. We're like, oh, we're going to have this high quality culture content, which is super important. And we don't get away from that, but they're also telling us loud and clear they want jobs. So it's move the jobs to the top, add in some interview tips, add in job profiles, give them what they want, because then they're going to be more likely to stay. And then understand your email behavior as well, and just do a little bit of research on that. So we want to limit the clicks out unless it's really important. We want to keep people in the email as much as possible so they digest the whole entire thing. If it's really important that we want them to go look at it, we'll link out and we'll measure that and see if they're clicking through. But as much as we can give them the answer in the newsletter, we give them the answer in the newsletter. We let them skim. So I really there's this podcast and social account called The Skim, and it's the top things that you need to know. Just make it really skimmable. That's how people are digesting emails. They're not going line by line. So make it really skimmable and digestible for them.
Perfect.
And so we've been growing rather than shrinking by following those. which is great. That's what you want.
Totally. Okay, and number 5. This is the last one.
Last one is that you want to drive those high open rates. And so engagement in email is looking at like open rates and then the click-throughs. And so as we think about the importance of getting people to actually see your content, the open rate is super important. And so for us, like the one thing you control there is subject line. And what we've realized is you can't underestimate the power of some FOMO, some fear of missing out. And so scarcity and exclusivity are really important to us. And so we try to make that super clear, where it's like, you're not going to want to miss this. Or inside look into this. And so what we've seen is if we're able to really drive those fundamental principles in our open rates, that we're able to get 50% or higher open rates, which is really, really fantastic for a talent community newsletter. We're really happy with it.
Yeah.
So really quick one, but everything's got to be like, you got to look now. Look at us as quickly as you can. And like this little itty bitty thing. And the other thing that we realized too is as Google and other main providers has changed the look and feel of their email, is that you've got the subject line, but don't underestimate the power of the first line in the email, because it shows up in the preview. And so that is just as important as your subject line.
It's just, but the question is like how you know, just using fear of missing out is, I always have this in mind, like you have to deliver what what you claiming in the titles. Or
you don't want to clickbait people.
That's true, because then they're going to unsubscribe. So my question is like, by the way, your open rate it's huge. It's really, really great. So congratulations on that. And that's a perfect example how you start from, I wouldn't say nothing, but like very very basic, let's say, start. But and it's for folks who have done something in email marketing, they probably know how hard it is to get 50% of open rate. So huge congrats on that. And my question is like, do you see like fearing of missing out is working for you for all your personas, or for example, engineers has a slightly different approach to that, or they're still human in their brains and they react to that the same way? Have you seen any?
Yeah, they're still humans. I would say, I don't know if it's necessarily even the fear of missing out or if it's just email marketing in general. The one segment that we don't perform as highly in by about 8 to 10% is our APJ community. So Australia, Japan, Singapore are big audiences there, and they are a little bit underperforming compared to the rest. And so we haven't quite gotten them up to the rest of the average. But it's still really great. I mean, mid 40s is still really great for them. And so, I don't know if it's the fear of missing out that's not resonating with them, or if it's just email marketing in general, but that's our problem to solve is that elusive group.
So, different countries, different mindsets, and probably style of consuming the email marketing. So, wow, great. So last question is about the legal stuff. If you can share, because you're operating States, Europe, APAC, let's call it. And I know in Europe specifically, it's really hard to not only acquire the email, but get the agreement to keep the people into your newsletter base. So how you manage that? Do you have any tips on that?
I have some tips, and also my biggest tip is to leverage your legal team, because they are the ones that are going to help you be successful. So my biggest tip is make friends with your legal team, because I have our GDPR expert on speed dial, because anytime we want to change something in our process, we want to make sure that we're doing the right things. And as a company, we just follow the stricter end of the law for all of our regions. And so we just are like, okay, if EMEA is going to be EMEA, then we're going to follow that along all of it. And so, excuse me, we have multiple opt-in moments. When we adopted everybody in, we gave a very clear opt-out moment where we're like, hey, we're going to start doing this. If you don't want in, now's your chance to opt out. We make unsubscribes very easy to do. There's nothing worse as a consumer than when you're trying to unsubscribe from an email and you can't find it. So we make it super easy. And we are just really clear and giving guidance around how to join the talent community and what that means. And so we have it built out and very clear consent language across all of the different touch points. And so that's all advice from our legal team. And I would encourage you to do the same, like make friends with your legal team, because you might do things a little bit differently depending on where you're based and what's important to them and where they want to mitigate risk. So you have to follow their instructions.
Last question before we just say bye is about, so looking at all the tools, and I know you guys doing a lot of stuff and using a lot of tools in employee branding, looking at the email marketing now, and maybe before you started to work with that, how important is that to use in your, like toolbox to make an impact, right? And bring the business the results out of the employer branding tools. So how important is that now? Would you place it as a top 1, top 10? I don't know. It's like, what kind of scale would you use?
At the scale for us, a little bit more mature, it's really important. I don't know that I could manage the size of our talent community without using a tool. So I would say super important for us. Now, think about what the talent community could look like for you individually. And if you're a little bit less mature, you can make it work without one. I'm thinking specifically around like, hey, if your recruiters are out there talking to high potential candidates, they opt into hearing more about them, put them in a group, put them in a holding space, whatever that looks like in your ATS, and send them an email. Like, you can do easy things to be able to still nurture your talent in a different way. Whatever is the simplest, go back to that key point number 2 for me, which was like, whatever's simple, like make it simple. Maybe it was key point 1. I don't remember, but whatever is simple, go with that for you, and don't overthink it. If you don't have a tool, there's ways to make it work. And maybe it's like adjusting your candidate experience to be able to incorporate more content, or maybe it's sending out just like quick touch point emails to your folks, and sending out a blog that your company wrote and be like, hey, I thought you might be interested in this. Whatever makes people feel cared about and noticed, and is going to give them high quality information that's important to them. Like, I think that you can make it work with whatever you have.
Right, great. This is great advice. So just tell me, how can we join your talent community to be?
It's right there on the front page of our career site. So if you go to qualtrics.com/careers, we've got a form that you can come and join and see all of our segmented newsletters, which is really cool. And you can see the Qualtrics Life Insiders branding that we gave it. We really tried to build in that exclusivity from the beginning to set up expectations of what people are going to get. So
perfect, folks. So everybody now is listening should go there and join to just discover more techniques Alice and her team is using. So perfect. Thank you very much for that 5 tips. It was really, really insightful. And please, if you still thinking about using or not email marketing, I think this is the perfect example. It can work, and it's worth using. So thank you very much, Liz, for introducing us to your work, and also tell us a little secrets about the stuff. It was insightful for me, so hopefully for the others, and see you soon somewhere. Thank you very much for joining us today, and fingers crossed for you with other tools and email marketing as well.
Thanks for having me. It was so fun.
Thank you.